Good evening from New York. 7 words amid the town hall chaos of July and August that captured just how definitively the Democrats have been losing the message war in the health care debate. Keep your government hands off my Medicare. Our fifth story on the countdown. Democrats in one chamber of Congress at least finally catching on to the selling point that Medicare is a public option, now looking to rebrand the public option as Medicare for everybody. And if it sounds trivial or even demeaning, it apparently brought a House blue dog over to the side of the angels. Introducing Medicare Part E, the E standing for everybody. Speaker Pelosi unveiling to her members a public plan that would reimburse hospitals and providers at Medicare rates. What's more, the Speaker making sure that such a robust public option would be cost-effective, something the Senate Finance Committee vehemently disputed when it did not put the public option in its bill. The Congressional Budget Office concluding that the House public plan would come in at well under $900 billion, which is President Obama's benchmark for any bill, and it would be deficit neutral over 10 years. It certainly didn't originate here, but someone on this news hour having advocated for Medicare for everybody 2 weeks ago tonight. The public option is, in broad essence, Medicare for everybody. Frame it that way, sell it that way, and suddenly it doesn't sound like a threat, turning the seemingly solid insurance which people have now, for better or worse, into something optional and turning anything private into everything public. Once you said Medicare for everybody, there would be just as much to explain. If you were under 65, you'd be paying for it. You wouldn't have to buy it. You wouldn't have to change from whatever you have now. There are just as many caveats. Still, the intent of all this would be clearer. Medicare for everybody might not be literally true, but instead of terrifying, it would be reassuring. And the explanations and the caveats would be listened to and not shouted down as anger and fear. The House also taking the next step in taking away the insurance industry's antitrust exemption. The House Judiciary Committee voting 20-9 to strip the insurance cartel of that exemption. 3 Republicans switched sides to support the measure. The Senate hoping to follow suit. Chairman Leahy of the Judiciary Committee having introduced his own measure there. Majority Leader Reid said to be inclined to incorporate that measure into the broader health bill. Meanwhile, doctors now facing a 21% in their Medicare payments come January unless Congress steps in. The Senate still deadlocked on that issue, including Democrats amongst themselves. Only 47 senators, all Democrats, voting for quick approval of a proposal that would have extended current rates through next year for doctors who treat seniors on Medicare. 13 Democrats and independents voting with the Republicans against what's known as the doctor's fix because of concerns the bill's $250 billion price tag would add to the overall cost of reforming health care, adding that the majority leader's decision to bring this to a separate vote was disingenuous. President Obama said to be entering a quiet period until congressional Democrats work things out. At a Democratic fundraiser last night, the president commenting on the quirks of his fellow party members.
You know, sometimes Democrats can be their own worst enemies. Democrats are an opinionated bunch. You know, the other side, they just kind of sometimes do what they're told. Democrats, y'all thinking for yourselves. I like that in you. But it's time for us to make sure that we finish the job here. We are this close.
We're joined now by the House Majority Whip, James Clyburn of South Carolina. Great, thanks for your time tonight, sir.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Keith.
Speaker Pelosi has said she's close to the 218 votes that she'd need for the public plan tied to Medicare rates, Medicare for everybody. As the member who counts the votes for the Speaker, where do things stand? Do you have enough?
Well, I think we're very close. We're getting there. That's been my standard response to anybody. We aren't there yet, but we're getting there. I feel pretty good about this. Our caucus is in a very good mood. I think that the country is demonstrating, by all the surveys I've seen, that the so-called public option is in fact gaining support. And I think that it all depends on how you cut it. As to whether or not there are 56% in favor, or 65%, or even under some circumstances 71%. So I think we're in a good place, and I think our caucus is in a very good mood.
And if we add in this this slight bit of salesmanship of calling this Medicare for everybody to explain it to people who don't just get it on the face of it, could that conceivably actually make a difference in how this passes, if it passes?
Well, Keith, you and my good friend Jim Oberstar sold me on that branding some time ago. And I do believe that will be a good way to brand this. Whatever this public option is, it should be called, in my opinion, and yours and Jim Oberstar and a few others, Medicare Part E. E being for everybody. I think that's a good way to do it because the American public has been living with this brand for a long time. They understand it, they like it, they accept it, and I think that's all we're trying to do here is expand Medicare.
I'm honored to be any part of it, sir. About the Senate Finance Committee, and it argued against and it voted against a public plan, saying it couldn't be done cost effectively, but the CBO says the House plan, your House plan, is cost effective, it's deficit neutral over the decade. What does that tell us about the process, that you really do need to run the numbers first to make sure everything scopes out the way it should?
Yes, we should. I think we want the American people to look in on this. We have been as transparent as anything has been since I've been here. We want our fellow Congress people on both sides of the aisle to take a hard look at what we're doing, because we really feel that what we're doing is in the best interest of the American people, and we want to do it in such a way that not just Democrats will be voting for it, but we ought to have Republicans voting for this as well. And when you are reducing the deficit, as we're doing with this bill, you're doing the whole thing under $900 billion, and you are expanding coverage to 97% of the American people, and you've got this significant expansion in community health centers to take care of whoever may fall through the crack. That is what the American people would like to have, and that's what we ought to deliver to them in a bipartisan way.
So sum it up for me, Congressman, in the light of events of the last 24 hours, once everything's merged, once that final legislation gets agreed to by the House and the Senate, gets to the President's desk, do you believe that Medicare for everybody, the public plan, will it be part of the health care bill that the President signs into law?
I do believe that. I think that what we will have is a plan that the President will be pleased with, the American people will be happy to have, and I do believe it will bring tremendous honor to us in the United States Congress, and we need all the help we can get right now.
If salesmanship works at this point, go for it. Congressman James Clyburn of South Carolina, the Majority Whip, it's always a pleasure and an honor to talk with you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.